Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at a southern snowstorm, which is going to be impacting parts of the North Carolina, South Carolina, northern Georgia, eastern Tennessee, and southern Virginia area, with some pretty significant snowfall on the order of about 3 to 6 inches, and maybe even a little bit more in some locations. So we're going to be discussing that as well. I will have my personal forecast as far as how much snowfall and rainfall I think is going to come out of this system at the very end of the video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Now we're going to start off here. I made this little diagram on the screen here. Now this kind of representing what is going to happen with this system. You're going to have this low pressure that's already formed over parts of northeast Colorado, and that's going to be moving and transferring its energy down to a low pressure system down in southern Texas. This low pressure system is going to move to the east along with this cold front that's going to be it's a stationary cold front is what we would call it, and it's going to stay over parts of the southeast, and that's going to be allowing some pretty good moisture to be built in from parts of the Gulf, and that's going to be streaming northward, and then you're going to have that cold air on the northern side of this, and anywhere in that dark blue region that I circled in, that's where I think you're going to have some snowfall at least, and then in that red area, I think that's where you're going to be really at the bullseye there of where I think you're going to have the most snowfall. So that's a little diagram I drew up on the screen to help you visualize what's happening. You're having this cold front that's pulling in this moisture that's going to be sitting there over parts of the southeast, delivering some pretty good moisture and precipitation over parts of the southeast, and that'll help deliver quite a bit of moisture, rain to the southeast, and you'll have some snowfall, of course, as you get that cold air on the northern side of that over parts of the Carolinas, into parts of Tennessee, and also into southern parts of Virginia. So we're going to start off with the National Weather Service. We have winter weather advisories, winter storm warning, or winter weather advisories for two areas here over parts of Nebraska and Iowa, as well as a little bit there of Colorado, New Mexico, northernmost Texas and Oklahoma, as well as southwestern Kansas. We also have that there for, this is all from the same system. This is from the low pressure system that's going to transfer into your main low pressure system, which is going to move to the Carolinas. So all of this is all related with this system that's going to be impacting the Carolinas with some pretty good snowfall. We have those winter weather advisories and winter storm watches, which might actually be upgraded to winter storm warnings. Of course, the criteria for winter storm warnings are lower because it is further to the south, so maybe only 3 or 4 inches would cause a winter storm warning in those areas, but definitely still some dangerous travel over parts of eastern North Carolina and eastern or southeastern Virginia. Wind chill advisories there for parts of northern Maine and New Hampshire, as well as much of the state of Minnesota and the eastern part of North Dakota and South Dakota, as well as a little portion there of northernmost Iowa. We also have flood watches in effect for parts of Louisiana and Mississippi, and a little bit there of some lake effect action over parts of off Lake Superior and parts of the UP of Michigan, as well as northern upstate New York, where you are also experiencing some winter weather advisories because of that lake effect that is moving into that area. So let's get into the surface analysis map. We have low pressure system dotted across parts of northeast Colorado here, and this is along with the stationary frontal system that's moving through. And you see we have teens to the north, and we actually have some pretty good cold air. We have some single digit negative digits in parts of North Dakota and Minnesota, and of course those wind chills are going to make it feel a lot colder, but that cold air is already in place, and that's why you're going to actually have the ingredients to see some snowfall if you do live in these areas. So definitely a lot of ingredients are having to come together, but I think for pretty much the first time this season, I think you're going to get all the ingredients that you really need in order to get a good system. And now here's that cold front that I was talking about, that stationary cold front. You have actually 80s in parts of actual air temperatures in the 80s over parts of Florida and southern Georgia, and then as you get north of there, it's in the 60s and upper 50s. So definitely a gradient of warm air there, and that's really helping fuel the system as you have a lot of moist warm air already in place along with that cold air on the northern side, and that's actually going to allow for the system to actually be fueled and bring a lot more snowfall than you would normally see with these types of systems. So let's start off with the European model. The European model, I'm going to use it today, and I'm going to have a little bit more trust in it because it is catching up with the rest of the models on what it's showing yesterday, really showing pretty much nothing, less than an inch for all areas out of this system, and many areas didn't even see snowfall that were expected to, but really the rest of the models kept on with their same kind of showing of the system, and the European has caught on now. So we're going to use the European, and we're going to look at the NAM. The European model being more of what I'm thinking. I'm leaning more toward what the European is thinking now. I wasn't agreeing with it yesterday, but now I've come into more agreement with it because it is showing a more robust system, and it's kind of aligning with what I'm thinking is going to happen. But definitely there are some things that I disagree with on the European. And then we're also going to look at the NAM 12K model here in just a second, which is a little bit more robust, and actually a lot more robust than the European model. So let's start off here with the European model precipitation. This would be by Thursday morning. You see the European indicating some snowfall there, going over parts of the Ozarks and into the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. This would be by Thursday night, and now getting into Friday, almost Friday at midnight time period now. Thursday late at night, Friday early in the morning, over parts of North Carolina and Virginia, along really aligning with what I'm thinking. I think the European actually overdoes what's happening in Tennessee, northern Georgia, northern Alabama, but I think it's actually pretty well aligned when it comes to what's happening in Virginia and North Carolina. But what I'm thinking is the northern extent of this snow is a little bit too far to the north. I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit more kind of situated a little bit like this, but you'll see that in my snowfall forecast at the end of the video. Pretty heavy snowfall rates. This would be right around 3/4 of an inch an hour or so of snowfall. So some pretty good snowfall ratios here. Now, as we continue this, you start to see over parts of eastern North Carolina and eastern Virginia, you're seeing quite a bit of snowfall still being pumped out. And now, as we continue this, you start to see by Friday morning, it's pretty much all said and done. So this looks to be an overnight type of system. So let's look at what the European model is showing as far as snowfall here in over eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, in the more mountainous regions. You are seeing about over 6 inches in some locations, but according to the European model, the lower lying areas seeing about 4 inches. And now this is something that really strikes me. Look at this is the European model, and now we'll look at the National Weather Service. Now the National Weather Service, of course, it's going to be a little bit on the lower side, as of course they don't want to worry anybody right now. Since we are still about 2 days out from this event, but they are putting the bullseye over the same area, which would really be along the I-95 corridor here of North Carolina and Southeast Virginia, where they have about 3.5-inch readings in some locations over parts of really that I-95 corridor. So just inland of the coast in North Carolina and Virginia, I think is really going to be the bullseye of this event. And then also as you get out into the mountainous terrain of western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, I think you're also going to get maybe 2 to 5 inches of snowfall, and you'll see that on my snowfall forecast. And here's the European model, one more look. Now let's look at the NAM 12K model, and we'll take a zoomed out look at the entire eastern United States. Now the NAM 12K model, it's more of a high resolution model, so it's one of those shorter range models. You see it's indicating some snowfall out in the plains, as well as this cold front that's stalled out over parts of the southeast, bringing some of that moisture there. Now this would be by Thursday morning. Now getting into Thursday evening, you're starting to see all of Tennessee, southern Virginia, and western North Carolina starting to get in on some of this snowfall, and you see pretty intense snowfall at that. Now this would be by later on in Thursday, right around the 8 to 9 o'clock time frame. So as you're really getting settled and now starting to go to bed, you're starting to see snowfall over parts of North Carolina and Virginia, and getting into parts of the Delmarva, where you are experiencing some pretty good snowfall ratios there. And this would be by Thursday late at night, and now getting into Friday early in the morning, you're starting to see that snowfall start to break out over eastern North Carolina and eastern Virginia. Very heavy, and I think the NAM 12K model brings this system a little bit closer to the coast as it transfers off to the coast. You see how intense this low pressure system is, and potentially we could be looking at some blowing snow with this event, because you do have some pretty good pressure gradient that is from this high pressure to this low pressure, which is actually creating some pretty good winds along the coastal areas. So we'll have to see. You could definitely have some reduced visibility on those roadways. Now this would be by Friday morning, and again it's exiting by about Friday noon time. It's pretty much all said and done. Now here's your total snow depth change, and I like to use this instead of the total snowfall because this gives you a more accurate representation of what's actually going to stick on the ground. And this would be for right around southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina, again along that I-95 corridor that the National Weather Service was showing. You're seeing about 5 to 7 inches of snowfall, and maybe even 8 or 9 inches according to this model. And total snowfall, the regular total snowfall was showing close to 15 inches. So I want to use this one because it is a little bit more conservative, and it does actually show how much the NAM 12K model thinks your snow depth is going to change. So definitely you're going to have about 5 to maybe 8 inches of snowfall on the ground if this were to verify, which I don't think it's going to verify. I think it's going to be a couple inches lower. I think take off about 3 inches and you should be fairly good if you are in this northeast North Carolina, southeast Virginia area. I think it's a little bit overdone here from the NAM 12KM model. So let's look at my personal forecast quickly at the end of the video here. Now this is going to be a system moving from today, which would be the 19th, through the 21st, which would be about Friday. Now you're going to have this system again transferring this low pressure. That's what this arrow is indicating here, transferring its low pressure or energy to this low pressure system over southern and eastern Texas, and it's going to be pretty much making a straight dash to the east along this cold front, and you're going to see some pretty good snowfall start to break out over parts of the Carolinas and Virginia. Now let's add your first layer here. This is going to be your mountain snow layer, and this is going to indicate where I'm thinking you are going to have changes, of course, and how much snowfall you have depending on your elevation, and of course that's going to rapidly change depending on maybe you have a higher elevation very close to you, and that will really skew these numbers. So definitely check out your local National Weather Service, but I think you should see a general 2 to 4 inches of snowfall, 3 to 5 inches, maybe a couple higher peaks, see 6, 7, 8 inches of snowfall, but that's definitely a lot higher in elevation. Now let's look at your next layer, under an inch of snowfall here, and I think this is where you're going to see really snowflakes or really minimal accumulation, a trace of accumulation over parts of northern Georgia, northern Alabama, eastern Tennessee and Kentucky, as well as southern West Virginia and Virginia, as well as most of the state of North Carolina, all of the state of North Carolina for the most part. Now 1 to 3 inches of snowfall here over parts of eastern Tennessee and Kentucky, as well as southern Virginia and much of the state of North Carolina there again. Now 3 to 6 inches is 3 to 6 inches even, and definitely I'm thinking it's going to be more around 3, 4, 5 inches of snowfall, but definitely I don't want to leave the possibility, I don't want to leave it out that the possibility is there that you could see 6 inches in some isolated locations if you do live right around southeast Virginia or northeast North Carolina, again where I was showing you that bullseye. I'll switch to the National Weather Service map again. The National Weather Service indicating that bullseye right around this area, and I'm thinking that's really going to set up, looking at all the models and looking at all the data that we have, it does look like that's going to be really the bullseye area for this event. We have under an inch of rainfall here, and that's for much of the southeast here and the south central United States, and we have a 1 to 2 inch area for parts of Texas, southern Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and into South Carolina. But that is going to wrap up the video, guys. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when I do upload. Anyways, guys, that was Eli Lothar. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.